Hello, folks. This is a new thing. I have got with me here Dave Ratcliffe from Helm Hill Runners, who is going to be my first guinea pig on talking about running. So, good evening, Dave.
Evening, Becky.
Nice to have you. Um, and
It's an honour to be invited, to be
oh,
honest.
oh, thank you very much. So, you are a very familiar face around Kendal when it comes to running.
Yes, yeah, I would think so, yeah, yeah,
Yes, so
yeah,
obviously a member of Helm Hill Runners
yeah.
for quite some time.
Well, I moved up here in 1998 and I trained a little bit with Kendall when I first came up. And then as soon as Helm Hill sort of got going, then I moved to Helm Hill. And it's a move I've never regretted. Never regretted.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
So, when did you actually start running?
January 1980.
What got you into it?
A young lady.
There's always a lady to blame, Dave. Always a lady to blame.
Well, I was working in Manchester at the time, and I was a civil servant, and they had a cross country race from the Civil Service Sports Association every March, and the office I was in always entered quite a few three person team. See person, you see that?
Person, good,
Eh?
good.
3 person team, and I was relatively new to that office. I'd only been there 6 months. And this young lady came round and she said, Dave, she said, you play sport, don't you? So I said, yeah, yeah. At the time I played squash, badminton, table tennis, that sort of stuff. But I'd never been a runner. She said, but you're sporty, aren't you? I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. She said, right, you're in a team for the cross country in March. So I said, no, I'm not doing that. That's silly. Okay. So she wandered off and she came back the day after and she said, Dave, that cross country, no, Claudine, I'm not interested. Came back the day after that and she said, Dave, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse now. Precisely. Mm-hmm. And she said, you're in a team or I break your leg. So, what gentleman could resist that offer?
So you
Mm-hmm.
ran.
So I started on the first, I think it was the second Saturday in January 1980. I ran about half a mile up the hill from our house and half a mile back, and I was sick in the garden, which thrilled Mrs. Ratcliffe, absolutely thrilled her. And then I stuck with it, and literally within 3 months, I was hooked. It's, it's the best thing I ever did. Best thing I ever did.
So you obviously since then have been training properly. So what kind of training have you done in the past, or do you do now?
Um, well, over the years, I've run every distance up to marathons, and in fact, my five grandchildren have all got a London Marathon medal from the year they were born. So that was good. But I used to train quite a lot. I used to run for Rosendale Harriers because I lived in Bacup down in Lancashire, and I used to run for Rosendale Harriers, and we were quite a good running club with quite a few England internationals, um, and I trained at least twice a week with the club, and then I usually had maybe one day off a week, but that was about it. When I was going silly, I'd run to work 7 miles to Rochdale in the morning, 4 miles at dinner time, catch the bus back home, and then go to Rosendale Harriers at night and do a 10-mile run.
Blimey.
When I was being, I mean, it's a long while ago. It's a long while ago.
Would you recommend that now to anybody?
Sensibly, no, no. Um, it's it's one of those things though. You can't disassociate your running from your life. Now I worked in an office, okay, So I could fit it in time-wise. And, of course, I'm sat all day just, if I was labouring on a building site, that's different.
Yeah.
You can't do it. So you've just got to look at your life and what's your priorities. And for most people, the priorities are your family, your job, your children, and then, you know, um, and I'll now make a confession. I did go through a period of time when all those priorities got skew-whiffed and running came before everything. And I didn't realise at the time what I was doing. And then one of my friends at the running club just quietly pointed it out. And I just asked Joan, my wife, I said, have I been? And she very, yes, you did. Yes, you have. Yeah. So then you've got to start rethinking it. But, I mean, that's what happens. You're a person. You make mistakes.
Yes, we all do.
You learn from them, hopefully, and then you move on, And I can honestly say that everything I've done since that early period, Joan has supported me in every way possible.
Oh, that's good.
And believe me, running has taken me to some fabulous places, and I've done some amazing things. Well, I think I have.
What's your greatest achievement, do you think?
I once ran 300 metres, and that was the greatest run I've ever done because I was carrying the Olympic torch.
Oh, I am not jealous at all. Oh no. Yes, that has got to be. Oh,
That,
yeah,
how can you top that?
you can't really.
No. I was very fortunate to get chosen, and at home, snugly safe in a cupboard, is an Olympic torch. So, yeah, it's just fantastic, absolutely amazing. Yeah, yeah, you can't really describe it. The funny thing was, well, not the funny thing, the brilliant part of it, I carried my torch in Kendal on Friday, the 22nd of June, 2012, and my younger sister, carried the torch in Rottenstall down in Rosendale on the Saturday. So all the family were up to see me on the Friday, and we all went down to see our Barbara the day after. And I've got a cracking picture at home of me and our Barbara in the white outfit with two torches. And then in October, our eldest daughter remarried because her first husband had died. And when they came out from signing the register and everything, they had an archway of Olympic torches.
Oh,
So,
fantastic.
yeah, that's brilliant.
That is. No, I don't think you can top, definitely can't top that one.
Difficult, I think. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But having said that, the running has enabled me to do a lot, not just running. It's affected every aspect of my life, really. And you could go through and tell you all sorts. We used to go to the Alps or the Dolomites for a week, 10 days from Rosenhill Harriers, end of August. Get your kit on your back, get up the top, and just run, jeet to jeet. And the scenery, fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And get to a jeet for your lunch, have a jeet, sit down, lunch, and then off you go again to the next jeet for your overnight stop. And people used to say, where have you come from this morning? And we'd say there, no, you can't do that. Yeah, we can. Because people in the Alps, of course, and the Dolomites, they're hiking, they're walking. And we were running. Not fast, but we're steady running. And, it's great. Absolutely wonderful. Where else? Well, Kilimanjaro, done that. But I didn't do that until 2013, I think it was, when I'd retired and that. And that was just something different. I wanted to do something different, so I ended up doing that to support MS and raised £2,500, I think. Gosh, something like that. And I've raised money as well for a lot of other things as well. Been trekking in Nepal. Just, you know, one of the nicest things was in 2019, my son and my grandson and me, we went up to Drew Ridge Bay in the northeast near Amble, and we had a lovely weekend up there, just the three of us at an Airbnb. And on the Sunday, we did a 10K together round Drew Ridge Bay. The annoying thing was that we set off and Jonathan, my son, was away, like a greyhound. My grandson wasn't as quick, but he's a roar and he's big. He's about 6'2", and he weighs it,
Solid, aren't they?
Yeah. But he set off quite well. But after we got to 3 or 4K, I ran past him. And, that was okay. I got to 9K, and I thought, I'll wait for Thomas, my grandson. So I'm waiting. And Jonathan had finished, come back, and he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm waiting for Thomas. So I'll go find him. So he came with Thomas, and the three of us ran the last K. And then when the results came out, Thomas was in front, Jonathan was just behind him, and I was last of the three.
That's not fair, is it?
No, cruel.
That is cruel. That is cruel.
But I mean, can you imagine, running with your son and your grandson in the same race? It's just, and we've had some fantastic days when we've been doing half marathons with the family. We did the Bristol half one year, and there were 12 family members running.
Oh, that's amazing.
Joan's brother lived down there, so his kids were running and ours were running, and brilliant. And it's something that the family have done together. I've done a lot of these other things on my own. When I went to Nepal, Jonathan went with me. We trekked together, and it's enabled me. Running has kept me fit. So because I'm fit, I've played with my kids all the time. I've played with my grandchildren. I got to be able to run about with them. And I got involved with a charity in 2011, 2013, Boxes of Hope, Cumbria, which is a shoebox appeal, and all the shoes are packed and sent off to Romania. And I've actually been out on 3 distribution trips with them. And that was an absolute eye-opener. That was horrible in some respects, because to go out there and see the squalor that these kids were living in was just amazing. Well, it wasn't amazing. You couldn't believe it, because this is Europe in the 21st century, and no running water, no toilets. Well, yeah, well,
not proper plumbing.
Horrible. And yet the kids were absolutely thrilled to see us before they knew what they were getting, because they've just got a shoebox. But the beautiful thing about that charity was that you could go out, you could do your own shoebox, go to the warehouse, see them all checked, packed in the boxes, put on the wagon, sent off, and then join a distribution trip out in Romania and actually dish them out as well.
It's a nice feeling.
You saw A to Z, and there's no in between. There's no third party feed taking anything away, and everything is self-funded, so you pay for your own flights, everything. And the trustees of that charity never took a penny out for their own expenses. So you give £1, that's what it gets spent on, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you talk about going abroad and seeing things. December 2005, Jonathan was working down in Ross-on-Wye. He lives down there. And he rang up early December and he said, I've got to tell you something, Dad. What's that? I'm giving my job up. Oh, right, okay. And in January, I'm going out to Thailand for a month. All right. He said, I'm going out. They're still asking for volunteers after the tsunami.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm going volunteering. See what happens. Right, okay. I said, that sounds really good, Dad. So he said, well, why don't you come with me? Ooh.
Tempting.
Ooh. I said, perhaps I'd better mention that to your mum first before I say for definite.
Good idea.
And as it happened, in the October prior to that, I'd been offered early retirement. So I will be retiring in March 2006. So January 2006, for a month into February, I could use all my holidays, could go, finish, and then retire. So I asked, you know, I didn't ask. I talked it over with Joan, and she said, look, you'll not get another chance. Go. So we flew out, and for the next month, I can honestly say, never laughed as much and never cried as much because of the aftermath of the tsunami. And wherever you went on the beach, there were little shrines, you know, photos of grandparents, children, little dolls, shoes. It was just, and I must admit, I've never worked as hard because we we found a place called Cowlack, and they had this tsunami volunteer centre, and they organised things, and it was a Thai charity. So they got various building sites, boat building sites, beach cleaning, you know. And I finished up on a building site at a place called Nam Kem. And talk about a third world building site. The ladders were driftwood nailed together. Equipment, we got 2 wheelbarrows, a big tin bath, a cement mixer, and I think we'd 6 spades, and from somewhere we had 2 hammers, and you just had to get on with it. And when I was there, we got was it 5 wagons come in every day with 2,000 bricks on these wagons, and they all had to be unloaded manually.
Good workout, this.
and we were digging cesspits and building houses, and but it was great. And then at night, you're all staying in Cowlack, a load of the volunteers were, and you'd rock up at a place called the Lazy House, which, funnily enough, was a bar, served beer. Got to be done. And, you know, people had just enjoyed themselves. And there were students and all sorts of... but having said that, I was probably the eldest there. Because there's so many students taking time out and, you know, that sort of stuff. Yeah. But it was absolutely fantastic, you know. So me and Jonathan out there enjoying ourselves. And I woke up in our room we were renting, and his bed's not slept in. I've gone, you know, I've crashed out, mate. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, oh, where is he? I better go and find him. So I set off, went into Cowlack, and as I'm walking past the lazy house, I can hear him laughing. Oh, forget it, I'm going.
He was still enjoying
He was
himself.
still enjoying himself, and then when we set off to go to work the day after, he'd only got one flip flop. He had to go and buy some more. Never did find the other one.
The sign of a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing about it was that when I got home, I went to 2 or 3 places telling people about it, and it was still real. And I retired on the 30th of March, and on the 16th, 17th of April, I flew back to Thailand for another month. John said, "Look, if it's got you that bad, go."
Go.
And yeah, I never regretted it. But it's all pinned by running, because I was fit and I was running out there, running in Thailand. We took a weekend off and we went to this jungle, running through the jungle. I got back and there was all these red things hanging off me.
Leeches?
Yes. Yeah, horrible. And of course, you can't just rip them off. I got one off my foot like that, and when I got back to Khao Lak, it was all blistered and that. So I went to the local mini hospital thing, and the doctor said, "Oh yeah, we'll need to get that out. It's left its teeth in or whatever. We'll have to get them out." And she said, "You're obviously English. Are you on holiday?" I said, "No, I'm working as a volunteer." "All right, no charge."
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So it was, yeah. I nearly got buried because the last couple of days we were there, the monsoon started, and we were digging a big trench. And I'm down in the bottom digging away, and this was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it suddenly started raining. Well, raining's a masterly understatement, and it absolutely, and then the whole side of this thing just went, and I finished up over my knees in it. And I could hardly move. And all the other volunteers are saying, "Get the shovel, get the shovel. We'll get him out later." Thanks.
Equipment first.
Yeah. But again, you see, this leads on like to another experience. Whilst I was on the first visit, I took the weekend off before we came home, and I went to a place called Kanchanaburi. Now, that doesn't mean an awful lot. In fact, I don't think I've actually ever said that place to somebody and said, "Oh, I've been there," because Kanchanaburi, bridge on the River Kwai.
Oh gosh, yes.
So I thought, I'm going to this place. I want to see it while I'm here. So I went, travelled up to Kanchanaburi, stayed over a couple of nights, went to they only had a bit of a museum there, but saw the bridge. And then there's a huge Imperial War cemetery, huge. And that, well, I don't mind admitting, I walked in and I stood there, only about 50 yards in, and I just looked round. You couldn't see anything but small plaques like that. The whole place, there were thousands. And it was so quiet. And I stood there and I cried. I don't, I just did. And it's one of those things. I think if every politician had to go and stand there and just see this is what wars lead to, I think they might change their ideas, or at least they would realise that
The consequences.
the consequences. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, running underpinned it all, and it's just given me such a great life. I really have. And coming up here, coming to live up here in 1998, and then just been great. Just been great. Running with the family, running all over the world. We went on holiday to New Zealand, and we went to um, oh, can't remember now, but Baldwin Street at that time was the steepest street in the world, and we went to this town, and they took us to it. Right,
Got to run it.
I've got to run this, and I did, and it was steep. It was steep. I mean, it was steep, and it went like that, and the last 50 yards or so were practically vertical, but it was great fun. Again, you're out running and you're way, yeah. So, and we went to Alaska and Canada, and I was running Canada and running Alaska, just little runs out myself. Well, what more can you ask?
I think you've got a pair of running shoes. You can run anywhere, can't you?
Precisely. Yeah, yeah. You don't need a court. You don't need a partner. Just get your shoes on and run. So basically, I love running. And yeah, I've had injuries. Yes, I'm paying for it now. What people have said to me, has it been worth it? Do you regret it? No, no, I don't regret it. Maybe what I do regret is possibly the early stage when I was letting it control me instead of me controlling the running, you know. But how can you regret something that makes it possible for you to do all these things? Not just running, but going out raising money for charity. It's just fantastic, and you get to meet some great people as well. Steve Cram, for one, what a nice bloke he is.
I've met him once. He's lovely.
He is. He's one of the. He was a great runner, one of the greatest at the time, and yet, no, he was so. Yeah, he came. He came when we were down at Rosendale Harriers, and the Harriers arranged for him to come to the big secondary school, Haslingden High, on a Sunday morning, and just have a run round the playing fields with all the kids and everything, and then he did a question and answer in the school hall. So he had a lunch break. So whilst we were having the lunch break, he was in the staff room chatting away to everybody and that. And then he went on the stage, and these kids were throwing questions at him, and he was answering perfectly honestly. And they said, one kid said, "Do you get annoyed or upset when you lose?" And he said, "Well, I don't like losing." He said, "But by the time I've got changed, warmed down, got changed, gone home," he said, "I know that in the morning my dog will still love me."
Oh,
And he said,
it's grounded.
grounded, yeah, yeah. And Dr. Ron Hill, what a bloke. I've met Ron quite a few times, and when you talk to him, and he tells it like it is. I've got his life story. He wrote his own life story. Somebody wanted him to do it, so he did it. Sent it to him, and they said, "Oh, it's too big, too long, too long. Cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that." And well, I'll not tell you what he actually said, but it was a case of, "Don't worry, I'll do it. I'll publish it myself." Because he's a real Bolton lad, or he was a real Bolton lad, and so he did, and he published it in 2 volumes, and it tells it like it was. Oh yeah, yeah. We went out New Year's Eve at work, or Christmas Eve. We went out from work at Christmas Eve. He said, and then I ran home. He said, but I'm not quite sure how I got home. And then as you meet him at various races, and he just tells you what he thinks. He don't mix his words at all. Because I was talking to him up at Langdale one race, And I asked, said about Brendan Foster. Poof, he said, Brendan Foster. He said, I've read his book. He said, I know for a fact, because I've kept records of all my races and everything, and I know races he says in his book he won. And I know he didn't, because I was at the same race, and I know who won it. Not necessarily me, but he said, I know who didn't win it. You think, but he tells it how it is. Yes. He was just an honest bloke. Look. Yeah. So anything else you want to know?
So after that, is there anything, so for anybody that's just starting out running, whether they are a youngster or somebody a bit more mature, because some of us, I started at 42, so.
Yep. Well, what I would say to any youngster coming up is, A, join a club with trained coaches. And B, listen to what they say and then just think about it. Don't just in one ear out the other. Think about what they're saying, and particularly when they start talking about stretching. Yes, me, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. But if young athletes start properly and stretch 5 minutes a day, just keep it going, they will avoid so much injury. People say, oh, you're bound to get injured. Yes, you are. But there are certain injuries that you can avoid, and you will get fewer injuries if you learn to stretch properly every day. For the older beginner, if you like, anybody that's taking up running, first of all, accept that you are what you are. No point thinking, I want to run like a 20-year-old. Don't work.
I know.
It doesn't work. But what does work is setting off at your pace and doing your training and your building up at your speed, not trying to do somebody else's thing. Do your own, and make sure that you do not overdo it in that first week or month of I'm a runner, because all you do is you get so that you're sick of it, or I don't feel like, I don't want to keep feeling like this. Build it up slowly. It's like a wall. Put the foundations in first, and then start the fancy brickwork. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's it. And talk to other runners, because I've never yet met a runner who is reluctant to talk about running.
Yeah.
Because you swap your experiences, and if you're talking to somebody who's been running for 10, 20 years, obviously they know what it's like. They know what it's like getting caught out in a blizzard in the wrong sort of clothes. I've been there. I've done it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's one of the relays in December. Yeah, it was cold. We got caught in a blizzard. We had to abandon it halfway through. Anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, listen to them. And I'm not saying you accept what they say as gospel, because they're telling it from their point of view. But think about what they say. And if you think, no, I'm not sure about that, okay, try something else. Talk to somebody else. Nothing wrong with it. Don't be too shy to ask, and don't be too proud to ignore. But at least think about it, and I don't think it's ever too late to start running, really. I know it's not easy, but I don't know. You remember Sandra Scott, older lady? She was in her late 60s, and she came and joined the club when she was in her late 60s, and she finished up winning the Vet 70 category for one of these long distance events. And she came and she trained with the club and just carried on running at her pace. Which is what I do now, my pace. The thing is, you see, nobody can run at my pace. Nobody can run that slow these days.
Oh, I can.
Yeah, that's what I would say to other people. Running is a fantastic sport. And one thing it does teach you is no two runs are the same. There's always something that little bit different. And if you don't have a bad run, how do you know you've had a good run?
True.
And one thing I have learned as I've got older as well, when is going to be your last run? You'll never know. You will never know what is going to be your last run, because you could go out one day and pick up an injury which completely stops you running. And that's it. It's gone. So enjoy it while it's there. So, love it, enjoy it, make of it what you will. It's your own little running world. No.
That's brilliant.
Anything else?
No, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me, Dave. Okay.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, I just love talking about running, and I can only go off my experiences, you see, and it's given me so much in a bigger sense of the word, in the world, been places, done things, and it's given me so much. It really has given me so much, apart from bad knees. And,
We don't talk about the
Don't
bad
talk
knees.
about that.
Don't
No,
talk about
no.
the bad knees.
No. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
All right then,
All
Becky.
right. Well, thank you very much.
Been a pleasure.